Previously on Connection.
Dude, we have some amazing people on this call. So I understand we've documented ourselves as doctors and attorneys in whatever realm you work in, but I'm talking about the people that are equally yoked or higher. Do they get excited and ignited when they see your name? Do you work your life in that capacity?
Welcome to Connection. My name is Bilitis. I'm pleased to be your host on Connection. This week, we'll continue our journey to get to know better about Mr. Byron Nelson on the second episode. If you're new to Connection, well, for this week, I invite you to check first the previous episode for you to better understand what we are up to. If not, well, let's stay with us. And if you start to like Connection, I invite you to subscribe and turn on the notification button like this each time there is a new episode. You are the first one to know about it. Let's get started. Get your pens and notepads and make the most of it.
Do people look at you with that vigor about who you're being, which in turn translates into what you're doing? That creates a supply and demand for your existence on this planet, that people can't wait to be in your space. And that collision for success that I had with Mr. Jim Rohn, and he started talking from that perspective, that led, and it kept leading down the pathway. And it was reverse engineering, because I don't know how it worked out. There was a guy by the name of Mark Hughes, and Mark Hughes started a company called Herbalife. But I knew of Mark Hughes' name when I got the letter of introduction to his house, palatial house in Malibu. And I walk in, I'm a token individual. For those that don't know, that means I'm the only Negro that's in the crowd. There's about 10 or 12 sitting there. And I'm in awe, because I'm from the south side of Chicago, where, money is low. And I'm sitting there in awe. The man flew home in a helicopter. I was like, now I was in my 20s. I was like, who, it's like, and blacks are funny, if you guys don't know, because I know we have a very international cast. They're very funny. They have a way, especially once they're evolving, they have a way of being cool, right? That's the best way to put it. They don't want to show their ignorance or their lack of awareness when you come from less means, so to speak. So it's like a guy, like, let's just say, somebody drove up hypothetically in a Bugatti. Let's say, Marcus drove up in a Bugatti, and I'm sitting there. In our head, we're like, oh my God, that's a Bugatti. Who pays millions? Who pays $2 million for a Bugatti? Who the hell does that? Do you see that car? That's what we have in our head. But when Marcus gets out the car, we're like, nice car. See, so when the guy flew home in a helicopter, you could imagine on a heliport on today a $40 million home. In my head, I'm like, he's in a house. Oh my God. But I was like, nice helicopter. I'm going to have one of those one day. And as you guys have all experienced in your life, we have all seen something. And what happens is, when the mind expands, it will never go back to the original state. Once you know what you can acquire, once you know what you can see, once you know what you can do, and I'm not talking about the materialistic things in life, I'm talking about everything. Once that knowledge kicks in, like, for example, when you first started your first job, I can only talk from the terms of dollars. Forgive me that I'm not talking in euros or any other currency right now, but, or francs or, yen. But when you first got that first job and you were working at $5 an hour, and now you're an adult and you're getting paid, well over, let's just say hypothetically, $100 an hour, or you're at $50 an hour, you'll never go back to $5 an hour. It's not going to happen, because you know what's possible. So how many times from a collision of success do you set yourself up to expand? That's what I did coming to the summit. I wanted to expand. I was like, I know most of the people on this cast. I know most of the people that are speaking. I've, sat before Deepak several times. I know his works. It's some of the people I've been in their circle on a private note. And I just, but I had an experience one time where I had a guy sitting next to me that had cleared 7 figures and another guy that cleared 7 figures. And we were at a summit similar. And the one guy got up after about 2 hours. It was 3 days and paid a very pretty penny to be in there. And he's like, I've heard this before. I know most of this. My time, and he was just very antsy and very anxious. And he got up and he left. He's like, I got too many things to do. I thought this was going to be a higher level conversation. And I looked. And then the other guy, after the second day, he left. And you gotta understand, this is a very powerful example of understanding confluence and influence. When people make other decisions and don't complete what they paid for or stay the entire course, it can sway you to start buying into the wrong story from the wrong person for the wrong reasons that had nothing to do with what you started for in the first place. And staying true to thyself. And I remember what Mr. Rohn said. He said, I've sat there before people and I sat in seminars where I paid a lot of money and I knew 98% of what I heard. He said, I knew 98% of what I heard. And I was like, wow. He said, I sat there and I had to listen. Notice the words again. I didn't have to hear, I had to listen. Write down the word listen. People ask me all the time, what separates the person from 6 figures to 7 figures to 8 figures? It's really the art of listening. And a lot of times it's what's said that was never coming from the mouth in the first place. That's a class in itself. And he said, I listened, and it was really amazing to have listened so carefully, as if you had a baby and the baby had a hard time breathing and it had a different algorithm in its heart as to how the heartbeat beat. But if you didn't listen, the baby's living, he has a heartbeat, what's wrong with the baby? I don't know. But the baby has to keep coming back, and it skips a beat because it's like, did you hear that? That's where the problem is. It's missing a beat. But if you aren't really listening, if you don't listen to it like it's a baby, you can miss that and the baby can die. Might I add that I do a lot of metaphors. May I say that your baby is your dream, that you have to take care of. In fact, by the way, that is my second book that will be coming following Finish What You Start, which is Birthing Your Dream. It's 9 chapters. It's about all the pains it takes to give birth to your dream. A woman would be able to tell you more than me in understanding her trimester, or understanding her morning sickness, or understanding that she never liked ice cream, but wants ice cream at 2 o'clock in the morning. Maybe some of you men have experienced that. Or all the different things that she wants that's weird in her life. But all the things that keep you up and nobody else understands. And all you can do is you just can't wait until that first kick in the belly. And oh my God, it's life inside of me. And the baby hasn't even been born yet. See, that's your dream. And if you're smart, you'll get the right coach and the right people to surround yourself with to be able to keep you healthy. If you smoke, you'll stop smoking. If you drink, you'll stop drinking, to keep you on track with birthing that dream. It's amazing. And you'll isolate yourself. You won't hang out with the same people. You won't kick it with the same people. You won't go to the same places. You'll change. You have to, when you're birthing your dream, you have to create an environment that's going to be healthy for that dream. I mean, healthy, a healthy, powerful environment to truly birth it. And in that collision for success, I'm sitting there, and he said, it wasn't the 98%, which was really an affirmation that I had gone to the right schools, the right tutors, the right mentors. He said, but what was really amazing is it was the 2% I didn't know that made the comma move. It was the 2%. I was listening for the 2%. Just think about how you're sitting. People sit in these conversations and it's going to get worse because we've turned into a virtual world and their mind is tugged on, I got to do this, I got to do that. Very few people know how to stay put because we're antsy. I got to get the coffee. Okay, I'm listening. But are you really listening? It's a very easy thing to do, but really it isn't, because most people have been living in the rat race, and this COVID thing has made everybody become still. Everybody was begging to come home. Now they're home and they're begging to get out. It's quite amazing. So that first collision of success that took me from Jim Rohn led me to another that led me to Les Brown. It just kept going down the rabbit hole. From Les Brown, I mean, before Les Brown was Sir Richard Branson, you know, and really it's like, how big is your dream? So, I mean, I'll share just a snippet of just like the projects that I'm working on, because I think that's part of what Ida wanted me to share. Had I followed my instinct, it will be amazing right now, because I said, so I do everything in the numbers of 7. It's just my number of completion. And I have a real estate firm that, you know, an LTD. And I started in, you know, residential and went on to complexes. It's now tapped into commercial. And I'm very nostalgic. So I'm building drive-ins. We have 2 locations we're looking for now. It's going to be 7 cities in the States and 7 countries around the world. But imagine, had I followed that instinct I had 20 years ago versus what I just reinvented in this last season with the COVID and the 6 foot, you know, and everything as far as the social distancing, to know that you have a piece of property that is the old drive-in right now, instead of having the poles for those of you who are old enough, but to have the Bluetooth and to know that it's building. And then you have the farmer's market. And then I have the, you know, the concerts that are done, then the sound system and the girls coming out like they were in the 60s, and the movies and what we do to be able to do that now, because we can't go to walk-in theaters anymore, not like we used to. Not including the equity in the property itself and the land, not including the movie and what it's generating over 6 figures per weekend, or the merchandising and everything else. But, you know, that was one of my smaller dreams that I'm working on now. I set myself up to be able to meet Sir Richard Branson and stay on an island, his island, for 5-6 days, but not just once. Right now I'm working on a program with him that's going to take place in September, and which is going to be amazing, because I believe Elon Musk will be there with me as well. But I go and set myself up in this crosshair because not I'm in awe of what another person did, but to expand my vision and collide with people who think on such a granular scale, not to be in the audience, but to be part. Are you, ask yourself, when it comes to the game that I'm playing in my life, am I in the audience or am I on the court? Am I in the audience or am I on the court? It's a very powerful conversation. Because see, if you're actually on the court, you don't have time to talk about it. In fact, as soon as you decide you're a leader, you put a target on your back. Because if you're busy doing what you're doing, you don't have time to talk about what you're doing. Did that make sense? Nod your head. Are you guys with me in understanding that? If you're truly up to what you're up to in life, you don't have time for that because you're too busy doing it. The people that are doing it, their income is going up and up and up because they're doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. The people that are talking about it are just talking about it. You got to separate yourself from the crowd. The reason I put that crosshair in place for Sir Richard Branson is because since a child, I wanted to own an island. So I said, if I want to own an island, I need to find somebody and meet somebody who owns an island. Now you can imagine a young Black man from the South Side, from the ghetto, talking to anybody of any color, of any shade. So what's your dream? To own an island. Why do you want to own an island? Because I want to create an institute that brings economics, that brings holistic health, that brings education, educos, and brings a whole nother awareness of self-empowering and confidence to building giants for the next generation, and then take proceeds of that in a percentage to those that have injustices and that have indiscretions that are now changing from a philanthropic perspective around the world, which is now linked to my drive-in theaters that we're building in the real estate perspective. It's a very powerful thing. So I wouldn't want to talk about somebody living a gigantic life. See, here's the problem. Let me show you this real quick. I'll give you an idea. But I really want to share something because I don't know how to do anything half-ass, if that makes any sense. I pour my soul into everything I do. So when she asked me to do this, I really wanted to bring, my A game of something that gives you a complete picture of what I saw of the caliber of individuals I met at the Titan Summit. So hopefully this is blessing somebody along the way. In that, I'm using the glass here. The problem with most of us is that we're filled, especially those who are in the summit, we're filled with this bottle of just content, and we're filled with wanting to change the world in whatever, capacity we choose to do so. The challenge with that is we're pouring into people that only have the capacity of this much, and everything we're doing is spilling over, and then we're frustrated. Is anybody understanding this metaphor? Are y'all following me on this? Nod your head. So you're having conversations, you're talking to people, you're helping people, you want to bless people, but none of them have the capacity for what your heart is built for. And then when you need to be filled, whether it's spiritually or in conversation or resources or to do whatever you want to do in life, you're kind of feeling at a loss, like, I've given to everybody and nobody's there for me. Well, you planted your seed in the wrong gardens. You have to set yourself up for a collision of success in the path of individuals that can elevate you to a whole nother platform of life. And they don't have to be. In fact, I choose preferably that they aren't necessarily in the same industry or realm in which you work. If you lock down a room and you saw a whole bunch of people, you notice that the Catholic people will find each other, the atheists will find each other, the single mothers will find each other, the Serbians will find each other, the Jewish will find each other, the Persian will find each other, the old will find each other, the non-believers will find each other. We kind of go to the law of familiarity and we gravitate. That's not how you expand. You expand with people that aren't necessarily aligned with your craft, your position, but challenge the status quo. Challenge the way you think. I tell people all the time, you don't have to like me, but if we do what we need to do, the way you came into my life, when I finish, you will love me. Because I serve at such a level that I give way more than you could ever afford. When I charge $5,000, $10,000 for a day of coaching, I make sure that they walk away with $100,000 of content that you will generate 10 times what I give you, beyond anything else. A person may have seen me in a network marketing realm and say, oh, that's what he does. I don't really understand it. Well, I don't do pyramids. Did you not know that I own 12 other businesses that are equally yoked and higher up? But you stopped at your perception. You can tell the way a person thinks based on the way they stop. And they're like, oh, I got him pigeoned. I know what he does. I think I know what he does. I don't know what he does, but he's in this company. You don't have a clue because you stopped at what you thought I did and stopped learning as to who I am. And you missed the entire net worth, which is why you have a bunch of liabilities in your life mentally. So you got to take the time to understand. I learned that from Sir Richard Branson. He said, when I first built Virgin Records, and then that went to Virgin Airlines, and then that went to, Virgin Mobile. Oh, it's amazing. It's truly amazing. So it's really a matter of understanding. You got to take the time and see. In that interview I was sharing with you, I had the greatest epiphany. And I normally don't even tell my age because I am the Black Benjamin Buttons. I really don't like talking about age. I like reverse engineering my entire life to get younger every year. So, I truly pride myself, which is why I build, complete systems and keep youth around me as well as the elderly. I love both polarized sides. I love talking to people that are over 75, 80, and 85. I get a high out of knowing how to get that wisdom and squeeze it. Other people, we're running and we're running. Okay, mama, okay, dad or uncle. And it's like, oh, here comes the sermon again. I have learned to appreciate that at the highest level. Now, I also love keeping the millennials around me because it keeps me so young. I couldn't be this way at 4 a.m, 2 at night, at 8 without having that energy. You got to have, it's almost like, when Robin talks about walking out there with nature, you have to put your hands in the dirt. You have to let that electricity and the electrolytes go through your body. You have to keep that youth around you. Otherwise, you get old. Old has nothing to do with age. And so I'm sitting there and I'm looking and I'm like, how do you level up? How is it that you level up? What is it that you want to do to level up? When you have that conversation, let's go back to the conversation, understanding language just for a brief second. Do people get excited about that conversation? I'm sitting there with Annette. We're on a call. It's the first time we're having a conversation. Here's how our conversation would go. Hi, Annette. Undo your conversation. Unmute yourself, Annette. Let's play. Hey, Annette, how are you doing?
I'm doing excellently.
Now, you were at the summit. We didn't get a chance to really talk or meet. We may have crossed paths. But I want to know, in getting to know you for the first time, knowing that we have the same frequency of attraction towards growing as an individual, what are you up to in life that most inspires you right now?
I am working on immersive travel experiences for leaders and for youth that are in at-risk circumstances.
That's extraordinary. Now, what excites you most about that?
To build the inner leader so that they can have an impactful life.
Wow. Well, I happen to be dealing with a lot of that. I want to know more about that because I want to support that. Now, I use that as an example. Thank you so much, Annette. Thank you. That's where it would start. And you want to write this down. Be more interested than interesting. Be more interested than interesting. So many people want to tell you about what they're up to and what they're doing, this and the other. Have you ever said hello to a person and you say, how are you doing? And they're like, oh, I'm doing good. But have you taken the time to stop and say, no, Paul, Annette, Enver, no, how are you really doing? I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing, or, I've had a challenging week. No, tell me more. How are you freaking really doing? And you look them in their eye and you stop. It takes an extra 30 seconds. But if you ask somebody a question 3 times, they will vomit on you. Oh my God, let me tell you about my week. You know why? Because 99% of the population out there does not pay attention to them. The reason we're in the crosshairs and the hell that we're in right now in this world is because of the lack of love. And people don't know how to love on another person. They're all looking for it. And when we get to that stage of understanding where we are, just the human essence of caring, beyond your titles, beyond your money, beyond your car, beyond your 15 grandkids, whatever it is, but just truly caring about the human race. Doors will open that you never expected. Gifts will be blessed upon you for places that you never know. People that had nothing to do with your dream will come and open up doors that could have never been opened, that you've been trying to open for years. You're like, oh my God. You'll have people do more for you than the people that are in your closest circles. Angels will be sent and you don't know where they came from. I hope somebody's getting this. It's a very powerful conversation.
Wow. This was your second episode on the series on Mr. Byron Nelson. Let's have a quick recap of 10 main points covered. First one, learn how to create your own supply and demand. The idea behind is to be needed. Second, When the mind expands, it will never go back to its original state. So you move forward, but as you learn, as your mindset expands, you'll not go back. Third point, the art of listening carefully. Fourth point, the baby metaphor, where your baby is like your dream. And when you are birthing your dream, you have to create an environment that will be healthy for that dream. Fifth point, ask yourself when it comes to the game you're playing in your life. Are you in the audience or are you on the court? Are you watching or are you too busy being into the action to tell what you're doing? 6 points, separate yourself from the crowd. 7th point, the bottle metaphor and learning, where sometimes you want to share what you've learned and actually the bottle is too full and it's spilling out. There is a limit on the content, quantity, capacity for the others to get your message. And in results, it may be that the seeds were planted in the wrong garden. The 8th point about keeping youth around you. Old has nothing to do with age. 9th point, how do you create a powerful conversation? 10th point, be more interested than interesting. Coming up next on your third episode on Mr. Nelson Byron Serie.
I look at the mind like a PC, a personal computer, and I built a garden. And I want to leave you with that garden to understand that, what in that conversation I was just having with Annette, it should always end with, how can I support you?
Thank you for joining Connection. This was your Connection episode. Thank you for joining us. As well, Connection supports the Gift to Dream Foundation, a foundation which was built to bring education over to Kenya and India. However, since COVID started, the focus has changed. That is why Gift to Dream Foundation launched the Food Parcel Movement. Did you know that for $2 a day, you could feed a family of 5? To make a donation today, the link is accessible on the description box below. Gift to Dream Foundation needs you, they need you. Thank you. Thank you for joining Connection and see you next Friday.